Who are the Great Old Ones, otherwise known as the Ascended Masters, and what do they have to do with quantum computing? The founder of the Theosophical Society, Helena Blavatsky, in the late 19th century, brought attention to the idea of secret initiatory knowledge by claiming her ideas were based upon traditions taught to her by a group of highly enlightened yogis, which she called the Mahatmas, or Masters of the Ancient Wisdom. These Mahatmas, she claimed, were physical beings who lived in the mountains of Tibet. Quote, "They are living men, born as we are born, and doomed to die like every mortal. We call them masters because they are our teachers, and because from them we have derived all of the theosophical truths. They are men of great learning, whom we call initiates, and still greater holiness of life." After Blavatsky's death in 1891, the concept of the Mahatmas, or the Ascended Masters, was developed by her successors in the Theosophical Society leadership, such as Annie Besant and Charles Leadbeater, who described them in great detail and even added Jesus and Maitreya to the list of Ascended Masters. In Leadbeater's book, The Masters and the Path, published in 1925, the Masters are presented as human beings, full of wisdom and compassion, albeit still limited by human bodies, which they choose to retain in order to keep in touch with humanity and help in its evolution towards godhood. In other words, Ascended Masters within the Theosophical tradition are believed to be spiritually enlightened beings who in past incarnations were ordinary humans, but who have undergone a series of spiritual transformations originally called initiations. Both Mahatma and Ascended Master are terms used in the Ascended Master teachings. Ascended Master is based upon the theosophical concept of the Mahatmas, or the Masters of Ancient Wisdom. The teachings hold that an Ascended Master is a human being who has taken the sixth initiation, also referred to as ascension, and is thereby believed to be capable of dwelling in the sixth dimension. In other words, it is believed that they reside on a higher plane of consciousness than the rest of us. One can begin to see here all that the New Age movement owes to the teachings of Helena Blavatsky and Theosophy. Alice Bailey, one of the mothers of the New Age, also talked about different initiatory processional ages that mankind would go through in order to reach enlightenment, even going so far as to put Jesus on the list of spiritual masters that inhabited this earth in order to guide humanity towards enlightenment. This does nothing but bring the Son of God down to the same level as that of Buddha and many other false messiahs. By the fourth quarter of the 19th century, the spiritualist movement was joined on the spiritual scene by the New Theosophist movement. Founded by Helena Blavatsky, this new movement was a blend of Eastern and Western mystical traditions that found fertile ground among urban elites. By mixing together traditions influenced from Eastern sources, Blavatsky was guided by her, quote, Ascended Masters to lay the foundation for the modern UFO phenomenon and ET disclosure movement. Blavatsky taught that God is a, quote, universal divine principle, the root of all, from which all proceeds, and within which all shall be absorbed at the end of the great cycle of being, end quote. Now this is a very Eastern worldview. Blavatsky wove Hindu and Buddhist concepts into her philosophy, and it's claimed that she and Henry Steele Olcott, with whom she founded the Theosophical Society in New York City in 1875, were the first Western converts to Buddhism. The success of Theosophy in the US and UK did much to spread Eastern mysticism in the West. The New Age movement owes a huge debt to Helena Blavatsky. Through her most famous books, Isis Unveiled, published in 1877, and her magnum opus, The Secret Doctrine, published in 1888, Blavatsky attracted international attention to her society and its goal of uniting the world in brotherhood by blending Eastern and Western philosophies. Blavatsky and her followers taught of a lost golden age that humanity had left behind, and that soon into the future, a new utopian golden age would be reached through man's conscious participation in the evolutionary process. With the advent of Darwinian evolution, spiritualists more or less accepted this doctrine because it supported their belief in the continued development of the spirit after death. With their mysterious symbols, tragic history, and memories of a glorious golden past, which were transmitted to spiritual deceivers like Helena Blavatsky by disembodied masters via astral clairvoyance, this heretical doctrine apparently stirred something in the hearts of those who read The Secret Doctrine. To put it simply, Blavatsky's occult system, Theosophy, is a religious faith with human evolution as an integral part of cosmic evolution. The ultimate goal was perfection and conscious participation in the evolutionary process. This process was overseen by the masters of the ancient wisdom, a hierarchy of spiritual beings who had been guiding humanity's development for millennia. From a Christian perspective, it's easy to recognize the deception embodied by the doctrines of Theosophy. While Blavatsky's critics believed that she invented her faith, a discerning follower of Jesus Christ sees through the lies. Humanity is not the product of random evolutionary chance, and the Golden Age was the pre-flood era during which the mighty men who were of old spread their terror throughout the earth, and there is no spiritual discipline that will enable us to become one with God and the cosmos. The appeal of the old lie from the garden, "Ye shall be as gods," is why the infernal council keeps rolling it out. It deceived Adam and Eve, the kings of the Amorites, and even Manasseh and Ammon, the son and grandson of King Hezekiah of Judah, who, like the pagan Amorites, aspired to join the assembly of the Rephaim. And now these original lies from the serpent have been rebranded as communications from beyond the stars, thanks to spiritual doctrines such as Theosophy and their belief in the ascended masters, as well as beliefs that were propagated by occultist Aleister Crowley, and fiction that was authored by horror fiction writer H.P. Lovecraft. The dominating lore that is featured in many of Lovecraft's writings references inherent theosophical teachings of the ascended masters, such as ever-powerful beings on different planes of existence and consciousness. The only difference is that Lovecraft put forth the idea of cosmicism, or the idea that these beings are indifferent to humanity's spiritual growth. As a child, Lovecraft was tormented by night terrors. From the age of 6, young Howard was visited by what he called night gaunts, or faceless humanoids with black, rubbery skin, bat-like wings, and barbed tails, who carried off their victims to dreamland. The nocturnal visitors were so terrifying that Howard remembered trying desperately to stay awake every night during this period of his life. These dreams, which haunted him for more than a year, apparently had a powerful influence on his fiction. From a Christian perspective, it's a shame that Lovecraft's mother, who raised Howard from age 3 with his aunts after his father was committed to a psychiatric hospital, failed to recognize the phenomenon for what it was: demonic oppression of her only child. It is also possible that he was tormented by the same demons, whether psychological or spiritual, that drove both of his parents to spend the last 5 years of their lives in an asylum. In spite of all this, the fiction of H.P. Lovecraft has been adapted and adopted by occultists around the world, as well as modern theoretical physics. And this leads me to my final thought. What do the Ascended Masters, or Great Old Ones, have to do with quantum computing? What even is quantum computing? A quantum computer harnesses some of the almost mystical phenomena of quantum mechanics to deliver huge leaps forward in processing power. Quantum machines promise to outstrip even the most capable of today's and tomorrow's supercomputers. According to David Deutsch, one of the founders of the field of quantum mechanics, quantum computing will enable collaborations between parallel universes. And according to Microsoft, quote, "Quantum computing will answer fundamental questions about the origins of our universe," end quote. So how does quantum computing work? Today's computers use bits, a stream of electrical or optical pulses representing ones or zeros. Everything from your tweets and emails to your iTunes songs and YouTube videos are essentially long strings of these binary digits. Quantum computers, on the other hand, use qubits, which are typically subatomic particles such as electrons or photons. Qubits can represent numerous possible combinations of 1 and 0 at the same time. This ability to simultaneously be in multiple states is called superposition. One of the titans of this industry is a company called D-Wave Systems, and the following video is of one of their founders, Geordie Rose, explaining how quantum computing works within the realm of parallel universes.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about quantum computers and why people care so much about them. There are literally tens of thousands of some of the brightest people in the world today trying to build these machines and understand them. And I'm going to tell you why. In my last 15 years of working on this type of stuff, I found that scientists divide up into two categories of zealots about this field. The first half are people who are absolutely entranced by the physics of these things. This quote is from a respectable scientist, in fact, one of the founders of this field, that may look a little strange to you who don't follow theoretical physics, but there is a very clear prediction that our most successful theory of nature makes, and that is that there are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities, as real as this one, that have different consistent histories. So imagine a world where all of the laws of physics as we know them are obeyed, but different decisions were made along the way. Different decisions at the level of tiny microscopic particles, different decisions all the way up to what you chose to eat for lunch and whether you chose to come to the session or not. Quantum mechanics makes a very specific prediction that all of those are as real as the thing that you remember. And this is bizarre because we don't see those other things. But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds. And quantum computers are perhaps the most exciting of all of these.
So what do quantum computing and D-Wave have to do with the Ascended Masters or the Great Old Ones? I will let you all make your own inferences. But first, watch the following video of Geordie Rose admitting that they are summoning these entities into the world.
But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian Great Old Ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want.